Okay, going back to my question, I've seen a lot of things surface on the internet about how egg freezing isn't exactly the answer because maybe 2 years ago we were sold on the fact that if you're not married yet and you don't have a boyfriend, you should freeze your eggs because when the time is right, you'll be able to have a baby. And then recently it came out that some people, now that they're 38, 39, they unfroze their eggs. They thawed their eggs and then hindi viable.
Actually, when we talk to the patient about egg freezing, that's part of the discussion that the survival after thawing of eggs would just be 60 to 80%.
Okay.
Meaning, meron talagang 20 to 40% na hindi magsasurvive.
Okay.
That's the reason, ideally, you want them to freeze around 10 to 15 eggs. Kasi nga, meron at merong hindi magsasurvive.
Got it. That's why pala when our friends are harvesting, how many did you harvest? How many
Yeah,
did, may
that's it.
ganon.
Kasi
Okay.
ganun siya talaga. Kasi hindi
Try to get
lahat.
as much.
So not one egg will be equivalent to one child. So dapat you need at least 15 eggs para at least
May budget allowance or
yes,
something.
kasi they're saying
15,
nga
that's a lot.
kasi when they were computing, it's like one egg would just be 6 to 7% of live birth rate. Kasi mababa. Pero that's the reason. Kasi nga,
You just get
and
more
it's
chances
part
with more
of the
eggs.
discussion.
Tama.
We advise that to the patient. Kaya nga minsan, kunwari married couples, they're not ready to get pregnant yet.
Yeah.
But then they're together and they're married. I usually tell them, don't you want to just freeze embryos na lang? Kasi yung survival after freezing ng embryos higher. That's around 99%.
Higher chance. So what does it mean? It means that if you have a boyfriend, but you guys aren't ready to have a kid, dapat you get his sperm na, she gets her egg, and you make it into an embryo. And that embryo is going to be frozen and kept. Rather than you freeze your eggs.
But
Tama ba?
I will not advise that. Kasi
Ay,
what if
bakit?
you separate?
What if they break up?
Ay my God, yeah, oo nga,
No, why don't you just
wait.
Why don't you just freeze the egg?
I
Freeze
know,
the
no, no,
eggs
no.
talaga.
I
If
know
they're
of-
not married,
Tama,
I
but-
go for
tama.
egg freezing.
Sorry, I'm thinking kasi of my friend who did it. And then in the end, they got married.
Okay.
So
Kasi,
parang it's a long-term thing. Meaning, kunyari,
Kahit na.
27 kayo, but you want to get married at 31, 32,
Oo,
33.
tama.
So they did it at 27.
Okay, so it's still really
And they have 2
healthy.
kids. Both embryo. Anyway,
Okay.
that was just a no. But I get what you mean now. What if you
Yes.
break up?
Kasi
Syempre, it has
what
to be
if-
someone that's here
pero kahit
forever.
na, diba? You can,
That's such
until
a
you're married.
new age dilemma. Like, oh my God, we broke up, but we have an embryo together.
Yeah. So if you're not married, kahit you've been together for such a long time already, usually, just freeze your eggs. Kasi mas problematic when you freeze embryos and then
gosh.
maghiwalay kayo.
Here I
Yeah,
am
for
giving the wrong
sure.
advice. Okay. No, syempre, it has to be to the one. Yeah, but
Yeah.
freeze your eggs. And then, do you guys also do egg freezing?
Yeah, we do egg freezing also.
How much is that?
So for egg freezing, that's around 220 to 250,000. And 2 weeks lang yun. Kasi di ba IVF, it's a 2 months process.
Yeah.
This time, it's also like IVF, except that we don't
One phase
fertilize
lang.
it.
How long do you keep it for? Pwede bang 5 years? Or may subscription?
Yes, it can be frozen indefinitely or cryopreserved indefinitely. So, ibig sabihin, walang expiration date. So, if you've been reading parang yung mga 5 years, 10 years na country-specific rules to, especially in Europe, parang some certain countries, they freeze them for only 5 years, for 10 years. Pero in reality talaga, walang expiration. You can freeze them indefinitely.
What if
Just
you
thinking
freeze an
like-
egg and you don't want it after?
Kasi since eggs lang siya,
Yeah.
you can
It's
just,
okay.
you can ask us to discard it.
Okay.
But the embryos, we cannot.
So, sorry, just thinking, like, imagine you can, like, make an embryo now, 2025, and then they freeze it until 2090. And then it's like a kid from the past. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
That's like
sorry, just random
some
thoughts.
really no, so
Theoretically,
no.
yes.
So for example, if I want to have a 4th kid, I'm not ready now to carry. But let's say in 10 years, there's new technology where you're gonna have surrogacy, or they say in China robots can carry your baby or whatever.
Should we do it?
Oh my God. Can you give us a deal naman?
Deal.
Embryo,
We can talk about that.
Why not, diba? Let's give our
you do
listeners.
want one, and I heard robots can carry
Pero yun lang ha, we cannot throw away
Your
frozen
embryo.
embryos kasi alive na yun.
So what do? You just keep it forever?
For now.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Kasi-
Or can people adopt it?
Kasi we cannot do that in the Philippines
Oo, tama.
legally.
legally.
Egg freezing.
That's
it's
why
so,
in our
there's so
clinic,
many.
we usually just inseminate. Parang yung kung ano yung magagamit. As much as possible, we don't want excess embryos kasi it's very hard.
What about surrogacy? What's your hot take on that? Because that's a whole other topic. But for example, there's an embryo there and then ayaw nang magbuntis ng girl. The girl doesn't want to get pregnant. can she say, hey, Kato Clinic, give me my embryo because I'm going to use it? Do you have to explain where you're going to put it? Or, you can do illegal surrogacy. Not that I'm promoting it. It's just like, honestly, I'm just giving you
Is that
like
possible?
random things that...
We don't do third-party IVF, right?
Okay,
We don't
yeah,
do surrogacy.
tama.
But
So
she can take it
we
out?
cannot do it in the clinic. So
Yes.
if the patient really wants to, parang she can transfer it to a center
Oh,
na
okay.
Ah,
Let's say
like
abroad.
abroad.
Let's say
Abroad, yeah.
Pwede.
Because in
Pwede
Spain,
abroad.
they do surrogacy in
Yeah.
Spain.
They can transfer it abroad.
Was it
But
in
para
Spain?
center
I
So
can't
she
remember.
owns it, right? She's just storing it with you guys.
Yes.
It's her. Okay, got it.
But sa consent, may mga
May consent
may
form.
mga ano yan.
Ang
Oh
hirap
my
din ng
gosh, Doc
surrogacy.
is like, ano ba to?
It's a very sensitive
Sensitive
topic.
topic.
Yeah,
That's
Pero
why
ang
I
hirap
don't
rin.
want the other our viewers to get the wrong, alam mo yun,
Yeah,
idea.
of course.
That's
So,
why I'm
ang hirap din ng
Hesitant.
surrogacy that's happening now. There is a whole surrogacy abroad. I know in Hong Kong, 2 gay guys who had a surrogate from Texas. And that's amazing because they've always wanted their kid. So it was parang his sperm, and then they got an egg donor who's a Brazilian model, gorgeous girl. She looks like Bar Rafael. And then they had a surrogate from Texas naman. And then they housed her, paid her. Everything was legal. They have a contract.
in the States, everything is
Pwede.
legal.
Galing. That's
Why
true.
do you think that is?
They're very lenient.
Whereas here in the Philippines, we're very, we don't have the laws.
We don't
Conservative.
have the laws kasi it can be subject to exploitations.
Tama.
Yung mga surrogates. Kasi
actually.
diba yung
It basically is. You're selling
yeah,
your womb.
my cousins are
Yes.
asking me to be their surrogate and offering me 12 million. I'm like, can I?
She's like, 22, I'll do it.
I'm like,
No. But all kidding aside, it kind of is because you are selling your womb. At the same time, there's also another aspect to look at it because for people who have never been able to get pregnant and have a baby, you could be helping them. Like I know somebody who helped because in the States, parang the requirement is for you to have already had pregnancy.
one
So you don't have
child.
that attachment.
Okay.
That's number 1. Number 2, I know somebody who did it, whose sister did it for them because they couldn't get pregnant. So that's like the greatest form of
I
like
would do that.
sacrifice. And you would do that for me.
Not
You would
for
have
you.
another.
for another sister.
but so there's 2 ends, and it's very
If you couldn't have a kid, fine.
it's very what's the term, controversial.
Yeah,
It's sensitive.
now.
There's a lot of boundaries that are being crossed. Do you guys ever talk about it amongst you as doctors about surrogacy?
Yeah, we do. And like I said, it's a sensitive topic right now, especially we don't have ART law, so very hard. So for now, that's the stand of the society. Parang for now, we cannot do third-party IVF.
Baka in the future, in like 10 years from now, when there's the ART law, you guys are going to be the Kato Clinic for surrogacy and infertility. I don't know. Who knows? Diba? Kasi
She's
stressy
like,
doc. She's like, stop saying that i-cancel niya. When it's legal, everything legal and things like that. I don't really know if
Yeah,
it's
we don't
something
know.
that's
But
going
for
to be.
now, yeah.
Let's see. What
But our
we
friend,
continue.
who we want to also get on the podcast, she's actually an investigative reporter. She did the whole story dito sa Pilipinas because there's an underground
You
surrogacy.
keep telling Doc about the
Eh, sorry,
surrogacy.
nagkwento na ako. She's like, ano ba?
okay,
I'm here
okay.
for,